Today, Jessica Williams of Feelmoregooder joins me to talk all the things. Hey, Jessica, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Brandy. I'm stoked to be here.
Would you start off just sharing a little bit about your background, how you started, and how you got here?
Sure. So let's see. Going way back to like childhood, I'm kind of a lifelong athlete. Played soccer growing up and then volleyball in middle and high school, and then eventually ended up playing volleyball in college. After college, I was kind of looking for a way to creatively express and share myself. This was in 2012. As far as like what I learned training all of these years and eating and all the components of being an athlete. And so in 2012, I started a blog, which at the time was like not really a thing. I just started a website, was kind of how I described it. So I'm almost 11 years later, still running a blog. It's obviously changed forms, and with the introduction of social media, that's a brand new component of what I do now. And My focus is on holistic wellness. I say that I talk about navigating life intuitively, which has really guided me. I'm not from where I currently live. I've lived in lots of places. So that's, the navigating life intuitively and following my internal compass has really guided both my career, my personal life, all of that. Um, as of about 2.5 years ago, I went full time with blogging. So for about 8 years, it was a hobby and a side gig, and now it's my full time job, and that's amazing and overwhelming. And I'm so glad and just fortunate that I'm really passionate about my work because I meet plenty of people that don't love their work, and I'm just reminded that that is like it's a gift. So hopefully that catches you up to present day.
Yeah, it does. And that was a speed run through
Yeah.
through where you started and everything. Yeah. So I love what you mentioned about intuitive and getting in touch with yourself and this kind of inner knowing. Can you maybe just elaborate a little bit? And of course, like back in the beginning, what you started blogging on and then how that's migrated or progressed and evolved over time.
Sure. Well, full honesty and transparency, when I was like 10 years old, I didn't know what intuitive meant. I didn't know what any of that meant. I think I have always had this element of I was called a free spirit growing up, and I went to the beat of my own drum. Those were phrases that were used to describe me. But as I got older, as you grow into an adult, you realize, hey, I think I'm a little bit different than other people. I'm not super strategic and analytical. I truly am kind of a hippie, and that's in many ways how I live my life. Um, yeah, when I first started blogging in 2012, my blog was called Run On Organic. And that's how many of the incredible people that I've met over the years know me. And so I was primarily focused on organic skincare and beauty because I am like a former cystic acne sufferer and really struggled with that for many years, and really got passionate about cleaning up my skincare routine. And that was a big focus. And then also organic nutrition. And I believe it was 2018, I decided to rebrand into Feelmoregooder because one, it felt intuitive and natural for me to encompass more of my lifestyle. It was bigger than just food and skincare and makeup, even though they still make up a big part of my foundation and my interest. I really wanted to talk about mindfulness and fitness and making these decisions as you grow into adulthood that really takes like happiness and fulfillment into consideration, which a lot of my kind of friends and colleagues over the years went to corporate America, and that never felt aligned to me, and I felt like I didn't really fit into that kind of life path. And so Feelmoregooder. I know that gooder is not a word. I think I've made it one now. But I actually, in the beginning of blogging, I used to write professionally for Live Strong and Health Ambition, and there's several different online publications. And so the joke is that I used to get paid to write things correctly. And now that I'm doing it my own way, I love spelling things wrong and making my own rules. And so that's kind of where that came from. And at the helm of every kind of message is truly feeling good, because I believe that's what life's about. And that's not to say there's not traumas and bad feelings and things you have to work through. There's no toxic positivity on my page. It's just that the end experience and goal for me is feeling good. So you might have to go through the muck and the mud to get there. But for me, my life is focused around that concept. And so it made sense for me to rebrand and just kind of lean into a more holistic, no pun intended, a more like whole lifestyle way of sharing. And I still do that. And as you know, Instagram, TikTok, all those things change like every month, every year. And so just trying to keep up with, hey, pup, trying to keep up with, not necessarily keep up with trends, but just, I'm a solopreneur. I'm one person and I don't have like an analytics team or any of that. It's really just me kind of going, okay, I think I'm going to do this. This feels good. Okay, how's that working? Do I love doing that? Is it making me hate my work? Those are kind of the alignment checks, I call them, that I run myself through, kind of quality control for my business. And I'm always evolving and learning. And I actually think one of my markers of success is if each year I can really let myself be where I am. Like if my blog is different a year from now, that's actually a mark of success for me because it means I've really embraced my growth. And like as a person, I've always said that like the line between me, Jessica, and my work, Feelmoregooder, the line is very blurred. I kind of am my work. My work is me. I'm constantly working, which is something I'm getting better about, kind of, pausing work and stepping aside. But as you know, it's hard when you love what you do and you're so passionate about your message. You have the desire to keep chipping in all the time. So yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, hang on just a second. I'm gonna have to clip that part. My
You're good.
dog's leaning on the
You're good.
microphone.
I gave you a lot.
Okay, so I love, yeah, you going into that. I think one of the things that stands out to me about your story, is the fact that you somehow avoided corporate America entirely, which kudos to you. I think I mean, I think that's a really compelling piece of it. I also just kind of with, because you really shared deep there about the intuitive piece of it and how that's setting up your business and arranging your business. Would it be possible to maybe talk about when it comes to health and wellness and all of the things that you're integrating into it, maybe a little bit more on the intuitive part of that aspect of it?
Totally. So to give you like a real life ground level, I know I kind of probably sound like I have my head in the clouds, and sometimes I do, but to give you like a real ground level idea, I've worked in several jobs. Like I mentioned before, going full time. I was a cold pressed juice store manager for several years. I worked in fitness retail for a company called Title Nine, which is women's kind of like active clothing. I was a barista, so I made coffee for a while. I loved that. I still love juice and coffee. Um, and I love people and I love sharing with people that are enthusiastic about life. And so those were two settings that I actually really enjoyed. And still in the future, I'm open to, like, my dreams include like opening a juice shop. I don't have any expertise to back that up, but that's still like, it's still, something I desire. And then I also worked in fitness supervision for a while. So I've had jobs that were corporate ish, or like I had, high level bosses or whatever. Um, to give you an example of like a kind of like, this wasn't the last job before going full time, but it was the second to last job. I was a fitness supervisor. And just to sum it up, it was a toxic work environment for me. And I was just surrounded by people that were not accountable and just were not my vibe. And so I had just decided, there was a particular day where somebody didn't show up. It made my job very stressful. I had to compensate. And this, I have a lot of respect for other people, but in this moment, I was just like, I'm not putting in my 2 weeks. I'm actually just going to leave today. And that's the summary, but that's exactly what I did. And it's still one of the best days of my life, because I literally, even though you could look at it and go, you didn't put in your notice, that, that onus is on you. I was really kind of retaliating to the toxic just environment I was a part of every day. And I had this moment with myself where I was like, if I really believe all these things I believe, I'm sharing this stuff on social media through my blog about having integrity and being this kind of person. If I'm going to say that, and I'm going to keep going into a job where it's the antithesis of all of these things, then I'm a fraud. And so that was my driving force for leaving. And I, just to paint the scene for the day, I decided at lunchtime that I was like, I can't, I'm not going back. I just had decided, and I went for a run after I ate my lunch, and I didn't come back in after that. And it was just the most kind of like, it's the most Jessica hippie story, kind of. And I've told that story before, and I'm not suggesting we all quit our jobs and do stuff, but if you can look at these moments where you just feel really deeply unhappy in whatever it is, and you just sit with that long enough, I would just offer up that there's an incredible level of both freedom. Yes, it's also scary, but also you really develop your self-confidence when you make these leaps in life. And again, your life will look different than mine does, but I actually look back on that day and I'm very proud of myself. And that's where I get some of my confidence from, is just trusting these feelings, leaning into them. And sure enough, I quit my job with no job lined up afterwards. Of course, I had some income from my blog. But I mean, really, I quit my job without another full-time income replacement. And it was really like faith in like me practicing. Do you really have faith? Do you believe you'll be taken care of if you make the right choice that's like in alignment with your morals and your values? And I was like, I think it was a challenge, but I was taken care of. I got more work after that. My income with my blog started picking up, and I just felt held. It was like I made this choice that was based on ethics, and like I mentioned before, it really felt like if I'm really about what I'm about, I have to do this. I actually have to. It was like an inner kind of just congruence with my belief system. My actions needed to align. I kind of had to prove that to myself. And so that, at this point was about 4 or 5 years ago. And I had one other job actually working in natural hair care before I went full time with blogging. But that was like a big moment where that was very intuitive. And I had people very close to me saying, including like the HR person at that job, that was like, Jess, if you want to like get another job in this field again, in this city, you probably should put in your notice. And I was like, I respect you, but I just, that's not an option. And so I had people that were like, Jess, I really care about you. This is not the right choice. And I did it anyway. So I know that sounds incredibly rebellious and all of that, but the reason I was able to do it is because I had this just like really strong intuitive feeling that I just had to do it. And that, again, that was just one job and that was several years ago, but just kind of instilling that own confidence in myself has been everything. And then that is like an intuition muscle that I've been flexing ever since. It's like, remember that one time you had that feeling, you did that, everybody thought it was scary, everybody thought you shouldn't do it, but you did it and you have never been happier. Okay, remember that? You were good. So then you can remember that later in life. And that doesn't mean always doing massive pivots, but it does mean that if you, this is my own opinion, but if you follow your heart and you really lean into the things that light you up and you're passionate about, you will be taken care of. That's been my experience every time, even when it's so scary, even with like you can't figure out how it could possibly work out. My experience has been that it will work out. You live like with your heart and this intuitive energy and your inner knowing. This inner knowing is another way to say intuition if people don't have a grasp on what that would mean. Those gut feelings you have, that pit in your stomach you have when you go into work every day and you hate your job, that stuff, that's your body communicating to you that it is not in alignment. And so that's hopefully gives you an idea. And I still till this day, I guess you could, in terms of like collaborations that I agree to or brands that I agree to work with or whatever, if it's not a whole body yes, then it's a no for me. It doesn't matter if there's a lot of money attached to it. And not that it matters to me to tell anybody what the no's have been, but there's been a lot of no's that are a lot of money. And I just can't agree to promote or be an ambassador for anything that is not like completely yes, because integrity and authenticity are they're my top things. So if I'm not doing that, I would just as soon quit doing this. So hopefully that answered your question. A little bit tangent, long-winded, but I just wanted to give that real life example of like, yep, I've quit the job to like, I'm not to brag, not to brag, but I've quit the job and it was a good job and it was high paying and I had benefits. And then I went to having no benefits and not having that paycheck. So that's just how much I personally live by my code. Sometimes it stresses the people out around me, definitely. But I think that's why I'm on the planet, is to kind of disrupt things. So I try to embrace that a little bit.
So speaking of some of the brands that you are working with, because it spans the gamut. You mentioned skin, hair, and then aside from that, I mean, we're over to acupuncture mats or acupressure mats and this kind of thing. And so maybe we can talk a little. Yeah, let's just talk about what all spaces you're in.
Oh, I love it. So the umbrella is holistic wellness, and underneath that is really anything you can do that you would call self-care. So it's literally taking care of the physical body, it's taking care of the mental body, your spiritual body, and then when you get down to like brass tacks, your skin, your makeup, your hair, your clothing, like you said, acupressure, all these little wellness tools that you can use at home to just elevate your state of being. These are all, there's not hard lines where I say I won't share about this. Those choices are also intuitive. There's been moments where I'm like, I actually don't know. A great example, I actually am wrapping up a giveaway today on my Instagram page with Foria Wellness, which is a intimacy care brand who I just revere, and they're really providing cleaner options for products that are normally just toxic. And I thought, I don't know if my audience is really into like sexual wellness and these products that are cleaner in that regard. But I just ran it through an alignment test. Like, I want to give people better options, and I'm going to help them get over this taboo thing they might have of like, oh, I don't talk about that on my page, or I don't talk about periods or menstrual care. It's like, I kind of feel like if I'm also not talking about it, then I'm contributing to the hush hushness about it. And so if I have to stick my neck out and kind of be like, hey, wellness is also your period. Wellness is also, the lubricant you use and all of that. And, I have family and friends that follow me on social media and see all of this. So I would say that's the biggest part, where kind of just coming back to my own trust and like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? Keeps me focused on it, because it's easy to be like embarrassed or feel like, am I sharing too much? Am I, like constantly like questioning yourself. So I would say anything that really elevates your state of being is something that I'm open to. I mean, I even like a mindfulness app is one that I'm currently talking with. Simple Habit is a meditation app that I use and love, and they have a new sleep kind of feature, and I've been trialing that. So it's kind of a comprehensive, my blog is really comprehensive, and it's kind of a funny thing, because in the last few years being full time, people love to give me advice. A lot of those people care about me, but I've been told a lot to be more niche and to really focus on one aspect of wellness, whether it's clean beauty or if it's, just like acupuncture and functional medicine or whatever it is. And call it stubborn or call it intuitive or whatever, but that feels like something I am just not interested in doing. I feel like it is diminishing my joy. And believe me, I constantly go through this check of, am I just being stubborn and I need to be right? Or is there any ego? Or is it that I really want to I really want to embody and present like a full person within a social media account? And I really believe that's it at this point in what I'm doing. And so that's why I kind of sometimes can seem like I'm sharing a little bit of everything. It's pretty intentional at this point. I've had no advice really to keep doing what I'm doing. I just, for some reason, like so many people love to just tell you how to do it differently. And it's like, what if I love how I'm doing it now? And the money and all of whatever measure of success, whatever I have now is enough. I don't need to like have a certain number of followers or have a certain, dollar amount on a brand collab for me to feel like I've reached some level of success. Success to me is being able to filter out all the feedback and like hold true to myself, because I don't know why that feels like success, but it does. It feels like everybody wants me to go left and I'm going right. And again, part of that's my personality, but I think it's really served me, honestly. The brands that I've gotten to know and the founders I've gotten to know seem to really appreciate that. And then I see that in them, and then I attract more people into my life that are like-minded. And like, that is maybe why it feels successful. Cause I'm like, look at the people I get to connect with, because I'm just being myself, and I'm not willing to give that up. I'm not willing to just niche down to make somebody happy. So.
And I absolutely love that, because that resonates with me so much. I mean, that's ultimately because I've got Rain Organica is a skincare brand. However, I'm branching out into other things as well because it feels so limiting. We're not just talking skincare here. We're talking all the things. And um it's the same way. I mean, the brand, because the riches are in the niches, right? From that whole business thing. And who cares? Like, I cannot get up every day and just talk skincare. I will bore myself to death. I have to talk way more expansively than that. And that's honestly part of the reason for the podcast and part of the reason for the name Holistic Wellness. And then also part of the reason for just expanding into other areas, which, is definitely in progress.
Yep.
So I love that. And I think I found you through one of your hair posts, and then love just the fact that you are talking about your period. You're talking about how you adapt your exercise to where you are in your cycle, like specifically, on period days and that kind of thing. And just, yeah, I love that you have blog posts on your site that talk about healthy menstruation and products for healthy menstruation, like all the things.
Yeah.
um,
Go ahead.
yeah, so I feel like with this, I feel like I'm still missing the piece on how you just gravitated towards the health aspect of it.
Okay. Do you mean like starting a blog in the first place? Just like that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So, yeah, let me try to make this. Well, you know what? I'm not gonna try to make it relatable, but I'll just speak as like I'll try to put myself in the moment I was in, way back. But I started my period at age 12, and I had really bad cramps from age 12, and I was like I said, I was an athlete, so I'm at soccer practice, I'm at starting volleyball a couple years after that, and I'm just like, this is like impacting my life. I had to stay home from school most of the time on day one of my period, which I know some women cannot relate to. I have friends that are like, at what? I don't understand. And then I meet other women that are like, oh my gosh, me too. Like, what are you playing around with? What herbs do you do? All of that stuff. That's kind of the passion. In many ways, that and acne are the two driving forces. So, I'm in a lot of pain, and my skin is freaking out. That's kind of where I'm at. If you back up, of course, this is, 15 years, 10 years before I start a blog, but this is like the inception of why, how I became like a health nut, my friends call me, is like I wanted to help myself. I my parents nowadays are pretty hippie and alternative thinkers, I would say. They're the two most incredible, impactful people in my life. And they, at that point, I think weren't as holistic, but they've been on this gradual incline. And then they have a daughter now that is just like swimming in it. So we're constantly learning and from each other, and I'm sharing stuff with them. And um, but at the time, I actually this has to just be an innate thing. I didn't want to just take a pill. I didn't feel like a solution. So I did go through the whole thing where I went to a doctor and they gave me the birth control pill to take care of my acne and to take care of my cramps. Now, this far down the line, my brain explodes a little bit because I'm like, wow, that was not a solution. And it gave me a lot of stuff that I needed to detoxify out of my body because I was putting synthetic estrogen into my body for that long. And so that's a little bit of a headache and all of that, but I didn't know better. And a lot of people don't know better until you do know what you're actually doing. And unfortunately, I'll just speak for myself. I don't think we can blindly look at practitioners and trust them and know that we are really working towards true health. So that's kind of why I'm more holistic minded. I want to get to the root cause of why my acne is showing up. Why are my cramps so bad? Um, and that really, and I was an athlete that was kind of a high achiever. I was a very driven athlete from a young age, and so I was interested in being on the field or on the court all the time, feeling good. So to do that, I figured out like, hey, if I just eat pizza all the time, probably not going to have the most energy on the field. Like, how could I tweak that? Could I like eat something else or like eat more vegetables or whatever? This was very like infant stage of like looking at what I was eating. And so that started to develop, like, okay, how much water am I drinking? What am I eating to fuel myself for practice? And then there was the acne component, which that and the cramps are somewhat coinciding because they're my body giving me a signal that it's off and it needs support in some way. And so, when I look back, those were where my interest first came from. And it's interesting now to look back. I would never wish those things away because they were my entry point to health and wellness, which is obviously such a giant point, a giant part of my life now, and why I meet so many people that I'm like passionate about these people that I meet. You're one of them. I'm just like, I wouldn't have met you if I didn't have that. So, it is interesting to go, okay, well, if I didn't have acne or I didn't have cramps, which some people don't have like any symptoms to speak of, they just kind of go through life and they feel medium, they feel like decent. I don't know that I would have dove in, but I was in pain and I was embarrassed about my skin. And so, I kind of applied my athletic mindset to like healing myself, even from like a young teenage, um, even like when I was in high school, I was nicknamed Organic Gator because I was a Florida Gator fan. I grew up in South Florida. And I was eating weird healthy stuff before games. Like so it's funny now. People are like, oh, when did you get into health like last year? I'm like, no, it's literally, fortunately, unfortunately, this is who I am. And it's who I would be if I didn't have a social media account. They are just my interests, which in some ways is why like sharing doesn't feel like work. It's just like who I am anyways. If there was a phone here, if there was if the internet wasn't here anymore, I would be doing the same stuff because I love it. And so, but yeah, that's a great question. To trace it back, it's got to be, just trying to help myself get out of pain and help my skin, which I think in some form we all have pain at some point. And if we're lucky, we realize that it does have to do a lot with lifestyle. That's not to say that, it's a quick fix to just get more sleep and then it solves everything. But you start unpacking that, and then there's just so many layers. I feel like I'm still unpacking things that are, things I can be more aware of to help support myself. For me right now, it's just working too much, which doesn't help stress and all of that. So, but there's always something. So hopefully that answered or gave a little inkling of how I how I got on this path, at least a little bit.
Okay, Jess. So I just feel like you at a young age were so much more woke than it took me 40 something years to get to where you are. Like I was raised in Western medicine, and my breakup with Western medicine has been about 20 years long. But you know, my mom's a registered nurse. It was if anything went wrong, you go to the doctor because they've got the answer. And I feel like right now we're essentially having a reformation within the health space that's of the magnitude of like the Protestant Reformation and breaking off of Catholicism from Protestantism, where you don't have to see a doctor to get healthy. Like it's innate, it's within your own grasp, it's you leading it.
Yep.
Um, so just this recognition that lifestyle and diet were contributing so much to, because those are huge factors. I mean, I struggled with painful periods and irregular periods and missing days at school. And while I didn't have cystic acne, I still had acne and, remember all the embarrassment. And I went the whole Western medicine route
Yep.
for a long time. I mean, 2 decades plus.
Yep.
So I think that, I mean, that is just that at such a young age, that is unheard of and just incredible that you were able to arrive where you arrived.
Honestly,
I think that speaks volumes about you.
I have to give a nod to my parents because they have always, for some reason, like if I had a crazy idea, like, hey, I'm going to start eating this, or I'm going to start, man, we used to live in a 2-story house. I went to high school in Texas, and we had a 2-story house, and I would run up the stairs, and I would be like, hey, Dad, I'm gonna run up the stairs 100 times. That's my workout today. So I'm gonna be running up the stairs. And like they just like there was never like I know that the phrase like people say, oh, my parents were supportive. My parents were supportive when I was kind of acting like a freaking weirdo, when I probably needed to like could have been doing something else, but they just like they I don't know, had I had parents that would keep steering me back towards Western medicine, I probably wouldn't be where I am now. But instead, the relationship I have with my parents is that I think I was teaching them stuff because I was learning stuff. And so they were learning through me. And so little things like at one point, I was like, I think we need to get a water filter for like our drinking water. And then like our family just got a water filter. And like that's one example, but just like I'm kind of for my family and my parents and brother now are on their own level of like wokeness with health. So I don't know that I feel like I'm such a leader now with my family, but definitely at one point I kind of felt like I was the kind of gatekeeper, if that's, I mean, I was the leader of new wellness information for my family, and I was gathering it, and then I was helping us implement it. And then, of course, there's nuance because, my dad and brother need different stuff than my mom and I do, and just all of that. But I mean, some of it was pretty universal, like filtering your water and contaminants and ingredients in skincare and stuff like that. So, yeah, I can't miss the opportunity to just point out that I think my parents are, well, I know that my parents are the reason they fostered my weirdness, and so they let me be that way. And now down the road, this many years later, it's funny, maybe this is a great time to point out, like, if you started a new career that was your passion project and then you didn't really feel like nobody until 10 years later was telling you, wow, you've really changed how I look at stuff. I look to you for advice on stuff. I feel like I'm just now hearing that, and I've been doing this for almost 11 years. So like just to some people aren't going to tell you. You're going to be helping people the whole time, but us humans struggle with vocalizing how we feel. And sometimes we look at people as like a threat, or we're intimidated, or maybe we're not even sure if they're right or not. And so we don't know if we should encourage it. But um, in a weird way, it feels like it's all worth it now because even my own parents, I've been helping my dad recently. He's going to get some mercury fillings removed and get a root canal removed. And he's kind of like, all right, Jess, what do you know about all of this? And I'm like, okay, here's everything I know. And he's like, isn't it weird? I'm just now taking advantage of how much information my daughter has. And so it's definitely better late than never. It's like, not that, I do it for that, but it definitely helps you feel like you're not wasting your time, because when you're in a job like I am, when you're a blogger, which doesn't even sound like a real job still to some people, I do think that I've learned about myself that I benefit when people express that I've helped them. That, like, the words of affirmation or that love language in my business is, it definitely fuels me, because it can be a very isolating job and you're kind of just doing this research for all of us, I kind of feel like. And so it's just nice to know that it is helping, which is the goal. I just want to feel good. I did it all. I researched, I started researching to help myself. And now I'm very fortunate that I can share it, and that's my job. And it really helps people. I know that when you find the information you need and you're like, oh, you just like have this light bulb turn on about maybe this one part of your lifestyle you haven't looked at, and then you adjust it and it changes this, whether it's acne or cramps or whatever, it literally changes your life. It changed my life. And so I try to stay rooted in that because that is like, I'm just overflowing with gratitude when I can feel like I'm really helping people. I don't know if you share that. I'm sure you share the same feeling when you feel like you're really helping. It's like, oh, well, then everything else is worth it. All this stressful years and the years where I wasn't really making any money, and all that's worth it, because now even if I have like 5 people that come to my website to look for recommendations, that still just means so much to me because I've worked really hard on it. So
Yeah. So kind of pulling back into this sorry. Um, going back to, so you said that you were on birth control for a little while after being prescribed that, and then you talked about detox. What did detox look like?
yeah, so gosh, what a commonly used word nowadays, but the way that I mean it is, this is how I understood it, at least. I've been putting this pill into my body for however long, it was several years. And then now my hormones are out of whack, for lack of a better way to describe it. And so I need to help my body get rid of this toxic buildup. And so there was some supplementation, like taking a dim supplement and doing like milk thistle and supporting my liver with some herbs. That actually, finding the right combination, everybody's different. Um, Quality supplements, quality herbs, you know, do the research that you feel good about, and then be mindful of how it's impacting you and all of that. I'm just big on like customizing things for what feels good for you. But doing those for a while really helped my acne, which, just being a person with a face that has to go out in the world, I was like, thank goodness, can I just get a break? Like, I'm already in pain. Can you just like talking to the universe, can you just like help me with this? Because this is just, I'm like over it. Like too much suffering, which I know sounds so silly because it's really not the end of the world, but it does feel like the end of the world when you're trying anything. So it was some supplementation. It was honestly getting more like fruits and vegetables in my diet. So, I mentioned that I worked for a cold pressed juice company. Juice really helped me and still helps me. You don't have to drink juice, but I do think that more of us need fruits and vegetables in our lives. So whatever form you want to do that in, juice is just one way. And I personally do green juice that doesn't have like fruit in it. It'll just have like lemon or lime if there is a fruit. But just a condensed kind of, I jokingly say it's like injecting just nutrients into your bloodstream. I don't think we should be walking around drinking fruit juice. I think you should eat the fruit with the fiber. That's personally what has worked for me. So, fruits and vegetables, some strategic supplementation, which for me was like, you don't have to supplement forever. You're really helping your body get rid of the load. The idea is not, okay, now I have to take this supplement forever. It's like, how can I address why I have the toxic overload, which was in my case because of the birth control pill. And, thankfully nowadays there's a lot more information and holistic practitioners talking about the impact of taking the pill, like Dr. Jolene Brighton, Laura Bryden, Aviva Ram. There's several out there that are very vocal and, in my opinion, incredibly admirable for kind of sticking their necks out and speaking out on something that is still prescribed to young girls and is doing all of this damage. And then they're in their 20s or 30s, 40s, 50s, having fertility issues and hormone imbalance issues, and they're confused. They have no idea why it happened to them. So Um, Something I guess worth mentioning in the last year or two is, these are beliefs that I've had for a while, that the pill is bad, the pill is doing damage, our water quality, our water is contaminated, like all these things that me and my family have been aware of for a long time. And with Feelmoregooder and my blog and my social media, I've had this fear that if I start really saying what I believe, I'm just going to lose people and it's going to be too much, or my account's going to get banned, or like, I just didn't know. I was like, what if I just like say exactly, what if I like do a post about how you shouldn't take birth control and you should start understanding how the female body works? And I've done that in like small doses in my own way, in a way that feels like it's not injecting fear into anyone, but it's just informing them and getting them to wake up. And fortunately, none of the bad things happened and it's been good. And, like I said, there's practitioners that are out there saying this stuff. And I'm like, all right, well, if they're doing it, they're risking in some ways their whole, you know, just all of it, their reputation, their job, all of that. And so that's been something that's, in the last couple of years of my work, that's been like kind of a dance of like, all right, how much do I want to reveal my hippiness, really? Because, and just reminding myself of what the goal is. It all sounds kind of complicated, I guess, when I say it that way, but it's like, I do believe that by being myself, I have the greatest impact, which is why I've let myself just, all right, start sharing more, start saying this stuff. And yeah, hopefully that it's just, I mean, you get it when you have these alternative thoughts on mainstream things. It can be hard to, or maybe not. Maybe it's just me getting in my own way. But sometimes you feel like, all right, I got to put it in this pretty little package, and then I have to give you all the science for why this holistic way is better and all of that. When really, I feel perfectly confident when I'm just with myself and my friends or family, just going, nope, you shouldn't do that. Just trust me. I've spent like years reading and researching. Probably don't do that. Try this instead. For some reason, like posting it feels more official. It feels like somebody's gonna accuse me of saying I'm an expert or I'm a credentialed person, which I've never claimed to be. I'm just a researcher. I'm just an enthusiastic wellness nerd. And fortunately, I'm in enough circles and I have enough kind of friend and colleague support now that they tell me, like, Jess, people don't come to your page because you're an expert. They don't even want you to be an expert. They want your experience. They want to know what you've learned. And I'm like, okay, that's a good reminder, because sometimes I feel like I'm, can't say something because I'm not a doctor or I'm not whatever. And so I'm kind of constantly getting over that and just expressing myself is kind of what I'm doing all the time on social media. And for some reason, it's a challenge, but yeah.
Yeah, imposter syndrome is real. I mean,
Yep. Okay. Yep.
like I would say that I don't have imposter syndrome, and yet like everything I do on the behind the scenes is totally imposter syndrome. Um, I also feel like knowing why. I mean, for me, I have to have a why. So I was on birth control for essentially 25 years with a few breaks here and there. I had multiple practitioners tell me, you really should stop that. But they never said, hey, you really should stop this because your ANA levels are off the charts high and birth control is linked to increased incidence of autoimmune disease. So let's just come off of it for 6 months and let's see if your ANA levels come down. Like that, I mean, a 30-second conversation would have been all it would have taken, because I'm also so science driven, and I would have gone with that all day. And so I think um I mean, just I myself am a walking case study for what the pill causes between autoimmune conditions, totally messing up your hormone levels, actually like dysregulating your blood sugar metabolism, all the things right here. So
Yeah, it's really hard for me nowadays. And all of that, I have all my opinions and things that I am, believe in, but I still sit with friends that take the pill and they're like, "Yeah, I'm on my sugar pills, I'm having my period." And I really want to be like, "That's not a period." I really but I really respect I respect personal sovereignty over your health. And I'm here if you need me. I try to do that because I hate being told what to do. And so even if it's from a holistic point of
yeah.
view, I really try to just, unless my opinion's being asked for, and then heck yeah, I will I will send you 1,000 words on whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I'll go do it. I'm just that friend. I will help you. I will do anything I possibly can to help you, but you have to let me know that you want my help, because that's kind of a sore spot for me. It's like, I don't like being told what to do. I like when people just assume that I'm doing my best and they give me the benefit of the doubt. So, yeah, I try to be that friend, even though it's hard. You
Yeah.
want them to wake up, but they'll figure it out.
Um, as we start drawing towards the close of our time, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you want to bring up?
It's a great question. I don't think I have a ton of stuff that I'm dying to say, only because I feel like my social media is a chance for me to express that normally. I can kind of, if there's just like a topic where I'm like, oh my gosh, more people need to know about this, I tend to, that tends to inspire content for me, whether I'm doing it in a funny way or not or whatever. Um, I guess, since we started with the whole diatribe about me quitting my job and pursuing blogging, I would just really encourage people to remember that we only get to do life one time. And so if you're not happy, just like start getting curious about what you could lean into that would make you happy. Because I truly believe that the more happy people there are walking around, the better off we're all going to be. And unfortunately, sometimes we're just not brave enough to take the leap to get to that point. So we just walk around at like 60% happiness, and everybody in our life gets that 60%, instead of, what if you could be at 98% just by leaving that job, leaving that relationship, getting rid of that friendship, moving, like whatever the thing is. If you're dying to do it and you don't do it, sometimes, I've had these hard talks with myself. You have to look yourself in the mirror and be like, just be honest with yourself. And I know change is scary, but I'm a good example of, if you lean into what really like sets your heart on fire, you'll be going in the right direction. It doesn't mean you won't have any struggles in life, but you'll be on this path that you'll still go, this is my life. I think that all the time about my job and the people I get to like email and meet and all of that. And it's all because I was just like, this doesn't feel right. I'm going to go do this. And I don't mean to simplify it and undermine the struggles, but I would just encourage people to get curious about that. And even though, I post about holistic wellness and hippie stuff and tea and juice and all of that, underneath all of that is just like being true to yourself and making your own rules in life. That, I hope, is the message that always comes through, because I think if somebody had given me that permission, I would have felt more empowered. It was a struggle for me because I didn't have any support really with that part of, taking the leap, because people just want you to be okay. They don't want you to have no money. So they're going to advise you to stay in that thing. And you're like, but I'm not happy. I would just say, start prioritizing your happiness. It will benefit everybody around you. If you do what you need to do to make yourself happy, it will spill over. And then you will be living your potential more than you currently are. So I know that's a lot, but I'm kind of an intense person. It's, living life every day like this is a lot, but I'm just pretty lit up about all of it. So it's hard not to be, I guess.
Yeah. Just this has been great. Can you share with people how they can find you on all the platforms?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Thanks for giving me this chance to talk and ramble. And I truly hope there's any nuggets in here that can help people with wherever they're at. Yeah, so I'm on Instagram and TikTok at Feelmoregooder, just like it sounds. Let's see, I'm on Facebook and Twitter as well. And then my website is feelmoregooder.com, where I have a shop page that's full of things that I've tried and love and would recommend. So from skincare to supplementation to all of that. And, if you have any questions, I am a DM or an email away. I love chatting. You don't have to support my website or anything. I love just building my community of people. I think we can just like turn into this incredible holistic army. And that is a win to me. I just like to connect. So yeah, if you're listening to this, follow me. Let's chat. Let's be homies, holistic homies.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the chance to chat with you, and I kind of wish you had filled up the conversation a little bit more because I want to know what's in your brain, but not everybody knows what's in mine.